Alright, this is Andrew with Judith Home Inspections. We're doing a sewer scope today here in Salt Lake. We're at 2911 South Judith Street. We have the camera pushed out 93 feet to the city connection. Now we're going to pull it back and record it and see what we find. So this first connection point is called the nose on. That's where it goes from your lateral line into the main city line, and it looks like a good connection there. A little bit of an offset here. You can see where the bottom left side of the pipe is slightly offset, where there's a lip. That's a spot where waste could potentially get stuck, and if enough waste gets stuck, it can create a blockage where it then backs up towards the house. That one I would consider to be minor to moderate, so definitely not the worst that I've seen, but they're never ideal. Another little bit of an offset there. I think this is probably clay pipe. We're seeing joints every 3 feet or so, 3 to 4 feet, which is makes me think it's probably clay. It doesn't have the bright red terracotta color that clay oftentimes has. Maybe a little bit there on the left side, but it does seem to be clay. A little bit of a root there on the left side. Trying to see where that's coming from. There it is, through that joint. Through a joint is okay. What I was afraid of is that it looked like it might have been coming through the side of the pipe. But I think it's just coming through the joint. Not very big at this point. If that's the only one that we see, I wouldn't necessarily say that it needs to be cleaned yet, but eventually it will. Once you have roots, you're always going to have roots, and so that'll be something that you need to maintain in the future. Some people get it done every couple years, and they get them hydrojetted out. I'm not seeing standing water in the line so far, and so it looks like you have good grade. Some more roots there. These ones are bigger. Also a little bit of an offset there on the right hand side. That one on its own probably still not big enough that I would say it needs to be cleaned out today, but I would recommend getting the insurance on the line. That would help offset the cost if there's any failures in the future. They don't proactively come and clean the line, but if you have a backup, they'll come clear it for you. Another little bit of an offset there, and this is a good example of how waste can build up and get stuck. I had to push my camera through this area and kind of had to break through. You can see on the bottom where it moved around some of that waste. There you can see that circle where my camera passed through. This is bad enough that I'd recommend that it be cleaned out now. Looks like you have some roots on that joint, and that's probably what they're getting hung up on. And that's blocking a good, call it 30–40% of the pipe. Another root there. Yeah, now I'm seeing big enough roots that I would definitely recommend that it be cleaned. And then also you want to have it evaluated again. There's a couple options on how you get it cleaned. I would recommend getting it hydrojetted, and that'll remove all of the waste and make it less likely. If you can have it cabled, but a lot of times the cable just goes past the root, and it doesn't always clean it all. Cabling is cheaper, but hydrojetting is definitely what you would want to have. Oh, a little bit of a little bug move around. Now we have transitioned to cast iron. Cast iron is what is under the house. The issue with cast iron is it gets real rough and rusty. It can thin out over time. For the age, this cast iron is looking okay so far. There's no way to see visually how thick the pipe is, and so another good reason to have insurance on the line. But for being cast, this looks decent. Now we're transitioning to ABS, which is a different type of pipe. ABS is plastic. Now we're just coming up the roof stack. Overall, the line looked decent. You had some offsets. None of them were extreme. I'd say they're moderate in size. You definitely have some roots that I would recommend getting cleaned out now, and then I'd recommend having it evaluated further. They'll usually camera it at the same time if you have it hydrojetted, and that way they can see what they're doing, but also they can evaluate those areas that were blocked by the debris and the roots, and make sure there's nothing that we're missing because of that buildup. I'm going to end this recording now.